did. You never will. You don't. You won't. You can't. And didn't. You wouldn't. You couldn't. You never did. You never will. Never knew. Never did. Never tried. Never always cried. Lied, watched me to die. Watched you hide from the watching me to watch. Lead me to decide, or rather deceive to believe me. Not to believe why Mary did after the vows. You don't, you won't, you can't, and didn't, you wouldn't, you couldn't, you never did, you never will, never knew, never did, never tried, never always cried, lied, watched me to die, watch you hide for the watching me you watch, you lead me to decide, or rather deceive to believe me, not to believe why the Mary did that for the vows, watch the time pass and watch the number of the times, watch me try for the watched me suffer without the watching as well. Well, watching me was well enough for the you don't know, for the wonder it could wonder, for the I could wonder, for the whether be us there, for the two, for the pondering your thoughts about the ducking bullets while you dodged for me. Would you harm me or harmony? Harm the value for the harm for the values, and hurt the trust that I gave you and took mine. Instead, the peace be steady for the love was the same love as selfless enough for the gain. Vain, that for the love doesn't live here anymore. Wishing it never came. Should have never been for the loan and your loan and loans. I can all loans. You gain for the watching you leave. Gold store my happiness in the cloud to be with the rain. Laying in puddles of reflection to painful erections. No reaction to pain. Heart bleeding down, drain, drought. Doubt was gained. Stains so that you choose to stay for the fabric you fabricated. For the inebriated with your wine. Wine to win the humping Wednesdays. And never answered the questions or called. Blocked the cover so last it was the playing. Hell's married to the overtime for the coaching. No strategy. No accountability, no apology. No apathy applied to the lies and you apparently appreciate that apart from the occasional cases that with the casualty you casually usually enough for the beef for you and us and God it will guide it away for the get to know for the trying to ignite it loosely at both ends of the string. Melancholy for the melodies you play. Heart with the strings that was the yearn that's water for the whole heart that made that former firsthand. Before the mediocrity, it was the media for the premeditated for the medicated. The mediocre was strategic enough to stick it into me with the unapologetic. No logic, no memory, no memo, no pen. A little love letter for the heart for that wouldn't penetrate the ejection. Ejaculate me for the time prematurely. Premiere, prior, practice, awareness. You wear me out of my mind for the body, for the spirit, and left me with no rights and no remorse and no Morse codes and immortality. No rallies for me for the no matter, for the really, for the no reason for the treating. No tackling the box of hook up with the bait for the catfish, another date to kill your prey. Yo beat, no Presbyterians. Where's the beef for propaganda to propose the proportions? Hanging with me, where the beef for the only for you for not to show over the heads, and the hangman for the letters who can't read their what you're saying. All was missing was after the vows and after. Altar around for the altar for the just used to be the alternative. Native, it was a rather the alter ego for the lacking of words. Never for the time that accountability was mentality or mentally. Limbs of the trees for the mistreated for the treats, and not with sweet misery for the missing and fine assimilate. Or simile for the situation for the insinuate. Your bad taste of the guilt for the mouth for the couldn't chew on. What you suck slowly for the nut for the throat for the work for the same testament. Who meant the test of meaning for the minuscule? Minus that's the skull for the crown.
Much more frightening enough that I would be terrible. So I'd rather believe that there's something wrong with me. It could be put right, for there's another need to be ashamed for the tears and tears born. The witness that a man had the greatest of courage. Courage to suffer the unity for the greater goal towards that humanity moves irresistible for the becoming fatal, destructive. Intelligence and the dignity, well-being, individuals. Peoples will never deform without regard to the liberty for the either that for the violent means or under the authority for the any theological for the metaphysical, political for the enough for the even kind of idea for these to be the icons and follow that for the path. A perfect matrimony for they must defend themselves against the tenacious. That was one trying to die for the vote. And voting for the truth for the path to make them remember for the black lives, and that was when they reached their goal. Students taken on to the bank with the demons. Struggling for the terrible enough for the brain. For against that section just to be against the brain.
Much more frightening than nothing. Much more frightening than nothing. Much more frightening than nothing. That would be terrible. So I'd rather believe that there's something wrong with me. could be put right, for there's another need to be ashamed for the tears and the tears bore you. But isn't that a man had the greatest of courage? Courage to suffer the unity for the greater goal. Towards that humanity moves irresistible for the becoming fatal, destructive. Intelligence and the dignity, well-being, individuals. Peoples will never deform without regard to the liberty for the either that for the violent means or under the authority for the any theological for the metaphysical, political for the enough for the evil, the incarnate idea for the needs to be the icons and follow that for the path. The perfect matrimony for they must defend themselves against the tenacious. That was one trying to die for the vote, devoted for the truth of the path to make them remember for the Black Lodge, and that was when they reached their goal. Students taken on to the banquet of deeds, struggling for the terrible enough for the brain, for the against the section, this would be against the brain. What is even more than that when it beats the terrible enough for the painful heart go against the heart. So this is what we know this. Let's crucify all human emotional attachments. Abandon that signifies the carnal passion. This is extreme, difficult, not a cult. The difference.
A person may cause that evil to the others, but not for their actions, but it's inaction. In either case, he justifies accountable for them for the injury. All the things that truly matter for the beauty, the love, creativity, joy, the inner peace, arise from beyond the mind for the something inside a man that goes to pieces when he has to bury the only person who ever understood him. Prayer does not consist merely in standing and bowing your body for the reading and written. It is possible to pray at all times and in all places with this divine spirit, but you can lift up your mind and heart to God while walking, sitting, working, cry out for the solitude. The door is always open, unlike the man's. You can always say to him in our hearts, the Lord, have mercy. The wave does not need to die because of Walter. She is already Walter. Urge is that for the courage, and it takes to stand up for one to speak. For the courage is also that for the state to sit down for the listen. Your eyes to see the needs and yours are the talents to meet them. For the open heart is compassionate because it maintains essential connection. But as soon as we separate ourselves from, as soon as we say no, there's nothing in front of you corresponding something in me. As soon as we forget that essential share, the spiritual essence for that we cut ourselves off. Go into the blame for the forgiveness comes that deep. Intuition for the sameness of your shared humanity. Perception starts to lower the walls of defense. Being judgmental is ultimately a defensive game. In words of saying, I am not like you. To forgive is really words and way of saying and see something in you that's the same as me. Then even though you may just be upset, even though the other person may have caused you pain and harm, when you connect with your shared humanity, there is forgiveness. Not that numbers matter. Living in the age where the answers are given to us and we don't have the process of understanding how that was made for caught through the virus of being here. Flight to lift that for the class and it was to view the city. That art, that proof, the values in the words taken for the heaping it decreased significantly enough of the words is poured into the rich actions that repel such spells and swell tongues that were hung in midair. Nowhere to find the destiny, but just unite to destinations, the universe to converse. It would not be a verse anybody, or no other written words to verse. This the factor for the factories. These equations the one for the creating the puzzle for whom to solve it, for who's to find it, curative for the sickness, and after to discover the cause for the sickness and where to learn where it came from, how to find it. Money to be rich and needs the money to be rich is wealthy enough for the healthiest exercising in the body, for the mind, for the exceeding your mind, for the controlling of the body, for the who's that believes those questions, and what is that for the belief for the vowels that before the why, the instant they answer. Sometimes why that for the otherwise letter to receive those capital punishments. No pun intended for the retention dimension that was amended. History repeating the future because we are the living it now due to the past. And if we didn't already get to the past and we are future now, for we speak of the that and travel fast into the anyhow. Anybody can hear me if there wasn't anybody near me to reflect those ways to give that goodbye. A good day. God gave you for I begotten the word. We gave isn't technically as if it was technical with the wordplay for the missing of a mistake to give that for the deprived, the reciprocity, the town adjacent to the well that's adjacent to the time, for the words for the me, for the when I'm some sovereign Adam in the gardens of Yahweh, any whether you can find the Javan, that this would be the missing of Jah. Current and after today, for the how that attribute, according for the sequentially, the numbering as if it was only counting on the feeling for the now describing your scribbles and scribes. Rather like it was a color for the retina for the deciding. Rather the eyes could be used for the chosen, the place for no wonder for the oxymoronic statement for the these kids that didn't want to join me for the wordplay. Didn't play out like that for the ways of the leaves of the yesterdays, of the night's lights, of the shut off of the dark, for the arriving of the depriving your pupils. Die later rather than the time to become.
That art of writing precious something, secret to conspire between the written word. That art of writing precious something. That art of writing precious. That art of writing precious something. That art of writing precious something, secret to conspire between the written word, the writer and the reader, a triangular bond between which identifies or loss or identities and who's the writer for the who's the reader. Perhaps that eventually get transformed into the words, and what happens is still a mystery, but to definitely define somewhere between the magic and the cure is a miracle will take form. Between the lines and the subtle messages that are conveyed. No four walls could make one home but fill these little tiny letters, so to create that heaven inside of your head, for them will be your friend who will come to you. Bruises, scars will choose to heal you first, and knowing that maybe the wounds are invisible. The library is like an island for the middle of the vast sea for the ignorance. Particularly if the library is too tall for the surrounding air, it has been flooded with thank yous. Carrying me when no else would, and this is holding me when else I could do. Forgiving me for the ability to wake up from every daybreak, allow me to rest after seeing another sunset. Thank you. Every breath that fills the lung for all those the songs that I've sang. The song the places for the feet for taking me for enough of the things that eyes can see. Thank you. For staying strong when I've stained your skin. Not giving up on me after the years of abuse. Thank you. Reminding me that I am built to survive. And all for those who done to keep me alive, levitating off of love. The vibrant silence of the gracious, reminiscent for the gestures of the words full for the adoration, for the wisdom to so sink your mind for the blistering sands and lost in vortex of time's insignificance and awful crack that hourglass to cause to reunite. Condensation for the visible syllables and the you unnerved or humble for the buried fevers. Hesitant for the finest sadly intimacy for the dissipated before it's gone battle the dragon lost under the desert. deserter for the grain, for the insufferable nothingness. Find himself caught between his own stone, vicious scribbles of madness etched within his slate. Atlas carries strength and endurance to tempt that shroud for the heavy burdens to titans, and the neural crossroads of cataclysmic collisions in astronomy for falling hard for soul displaced for the mixed galaxies for the spinning earth and sky colliding. Nothing. Left in your wintry garden, sunset dragon. You breathe the fire for the one more time for the sake of creation. Seek the warm glow deep within you who douse that soul into the dirt for the end. Cadence for this to be the earth brand without life once again to bring the evolutions for the sentiment. Beings and have one hazardly. Frolicking for the virtues and chaos in your cosmic radiation. Then the creation forge, interconnected. An oasis of perpetual dreams, and some days I look at these fingers to remember what branches a tree felt these days and feel it every day for the wind to touch the sweet mist dancing through the air for the current, making the fears held and want to be flied away for the waves of the tears. Came to every Tuesday and Thursday, but maybe it's never to recall that it was like to see the stars and not remember the warmth is for. You being composed and gently and calm. You're somewhere else, yes, for I'm up promising. Unfortunate and haunting. I'm borderline, an architect for however to go about it. This is what the good guys do, you keep trying. They don't give up. One thing is ready to get me in which the words are started for the technical, minute turns to the medical, then become terms for the abuse for the okay for which you're not. Most don't think they know about their history, but use the technical terms for the different levels of the IQ. But we're used for the insides of this movement, for the perhaps that for the passion, and deluding myself for the postponing your death by the living for the suffering, error, risking, giving, losing. No one is useless in this world who lights the burdens of another. Years of love, been forgot. Hatred of a minute, once for all. I knew for my sorrow often and often it's not always in love, for the against the reason, for the against the promise, and against the peace and the more the hope, for the against the happiness, against the discouragement that could be for once for all. I love for none for less because I knew it. And I had more for the influence restraining me, for the devoutly believed to be the human perfection when I couldn't love, when it was a thought I would love forever, for it was a shame that punished me. Beware, I am fearless with the therefore the powerful enough for the watch that wilderness for the snake, for that I may sting with his venom, for the happiness of a heart for yachting the circumstances. I have always loved the desert. One sits on the desert sand dune that sees nothing, that hears none. Through the silence and thinking to find the throb of the gleam and what really makes you feel a man, for the vision to true that for the glass who runs out of the sand, for that I haven't decided the time to stick to love. Hate is too great of a burden to bear, but one fun it would be for the thought. Thou art a writing precious something, secret to conspire between the written word, the writer and the reader, a triangular bond between which identifies or loss or identities, and who's the writer for the who's the reader. Perhaps that eventually get transformed into the words, and what happens is still a mystery, but definitely defined somewhere between the magic. It occurs a miracle. It would take form between the lines and the subtle messages that are conveyed. No four walls could make one home but fill these little tiny letters to create that heaven inside of your head, for there will be your friend who will come to you. Bruises, scars would choose to heal you first, and knowing that maybe the wounds are invisible. A library is like an island for the middle of the vast sea for the ignorance. Particularly if the library is too tall, for the surrounding air has been flooded with thank yous. Carrying me when no else would, and it's the holding me when else I could do, forgiving me for the ability to wake up from every daybreak, allowing me to rest after seeing another sunset. Thank you. Every breath that fills the lung for all those the songs that I've sang, sung the places for the feet for taking me for enough of the things that eyes can see. Thank you for staying strong when I've stained your skin, not giving up on me after the years of abuse. Thank you, reminding me that I am built to survive. And all for those who done to keep me alive, levitating off of love. The vibrant silence of the gracious, Reminiscent for the gestures of the words full for the adoration, for the wisdom is so sink your mind for the blistering sands and lost in vortex at times insignificance and awful crack that hourglass to cause to reunite. Condensation for the visible syllables and then you unnerved the humble for the very feverish. Hesitant for the finest sadly intimacy for the dissipated before it's gone battle the dragon lost under the desert. Deserter for the grain for the insufferable nothingness. Find itself caught between his own stone, this scribbles of madness etched within a slate. Atlas carries strength and endurance to tempt that shroud for the heavy burdens of titans, and your crossroads of cataclysmic and collisions in astronomy of falling heart for soul displaced for the mixed galaxies for the spinning earth and sky colliding. Nothing. Left in your wintry garden, sunset dragon. You breathe the fire for the one more time for the sake of creation. Seek the warm glow deep within you who douse that soul into the dirt for the end cadence for this to be the earth brand without life once again to bring the evolutions for the sentiment beings and have one hazardly frolicking for the virtues and chaos in your cosmic radiation. Then the creation forged, interconnected. An oasis of perpetual dreams, and some days I look at these fingers to remember what branches a tree felt these days and feel it every day for the wind to touch the sweet mist dancing through the air for the current making the fears held and want to be flied away for the waves of the tears came to every Tuesday and Thursday, but maybe it's never to recall that it was like to see the stars and not remember the warmth is for. You being composed and gently and calm.